Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the internet, and welcome to another episode of Fanalysis, Avatar: The Last Airbender. I am Callan, this is Matt.
Hello?
And this is Evan.
Hi, everyone.
Summary for the episode, please, Matt.
Day at the beach.
This is Avatar: The Last Airbender, Book 3, Episode 5, The Beach. This is the episode where it is chiefly a Fire Nation squad episode, although the gang does appear, and they have like their own little side adventure, or not very little, actually.
Well,
Misadventure.
Yeah.
yeah.
But Zuko and Azula and their friends, or their girlfriend and the third
The
wheel.
small elite
Or
team,
fourth
as
wheel,
I've
like-
labelled them in our notes.
The small elite team, right?
The small elite team is their name.
The small elite team plus Zuko, they go to the beach and they do some soul searching, and that's pretty much the plot. And they struggle to fit in with normal-ish people. Although these are not necessarily like bottom rung Fire Nation. These are obviously rich Fire Nation kids, so but even there, because they're royalty or friends of royalty, they don't really fit in. It's just it's sort of we're on the beach on our quest for humanity and trying to figure out who we are at the bottom of all this, and we all get smoothed out or whatever, as Lo and Lee said.
It is
like
quite
stones,
literally, yeah. It is quite literally the anime beach episode of this series.
But done well, unlike every single
Yeah.
example of that in other media. But yeah, it's obviously a fan favorite. This is a favorite of ours, I'm sure. But it is mostly down to the ending sequence. There are some solid pieces throughout this, and we're going to go into them as we move through the episode. Beat by beat.
Oh yeah, I like the whole episode.
Yeah,
obviously the height of the episode is the climax, but the whole episode is great.
Oh yeah,
There's
never any
groundwork.
moments where you're just like what the hell's going on,
Yeah, the groundwork is laid
there's-
throughout, and it really kind of builds up. And again, it's one of those instances where, as great as the end scene is, and it's as great as that's the bit that everyone comes back to watch, it doesn't work without all of the groundwork set out by the rest of the episode. So it's another example of that perfectly or artfully executed work on an episode level that these writers had just nailed.
I also like that they established the location of Ember Island as like it's just kind of it's not, by no means is it necessary, but the fact that we have the Ember Island players later on in the show, like right before the finale, it was just kind of nice having that little touch of believability in the world there, and keeping that as a through line, and the fact that Zuko and Azula used to come here as kids. And of course they would have a vacation house because they're or three because they're royalty.
Indeed.
They've
been doing a good job of that throughout the book, to be honest. Like I said in The Awakening, they've been keeping a careful eye on where they are as they're traveling through the world and using that for inspiration on each of the episodes, or at least some of them. So they do a good job of keeping that kind of sense of scale in the mind of the audience as you work through the episodes, which you don't have to do. Like I say, it's not exactly essential. You can just go through and not have touches like that, but there's no reason not to. It only adds to the experience. So it's nice to know they paid attention to that.
And that obviously builds off the fact that we have this is the only nation left in the series that we haven't like seriously explored up until this. They're kind of using, it's like the inherent, it's just an inherent strength of that, when you're at the end of towards the end of a series and this is kind of like your last big area to explore. But since you've already had so much time with these characters, you don't need to like waste time like reestablishing everything. It's just basically taking them and putting them in a completely new setting and how they interact with that setting.
And especially considering how much time would be purely spent within the palace grounds and the larger city of the capital, as if they didn't do this. It's good use of setting and space, just from an art perspective, not having the same background in every single episode for these guys. That as well, knowing that they didn't want to reveal too much of the area for the capital as a whole, because that's going to be the main centerpiece for not the finale, but the finale, of the mid-season battle. So they didn't want to just blow all of that on and repeatedly use it and have the reader get bored, audience get bored of it before having reached that point. So it's cool that they're using these different set pieces. So yeah, the small elite team are heading to Ember Island. One of the things that's been so central to this episode for me, always looking back on it, and it's obvious, that the main focus is on Zuko and his development here, but the fact that they're putting almost equal attention on each of the members of the team, properly fleshing them out again, particularly in that end scene. I mean, we'll get there in the end. There's so much to say on that one particular scene on the beach, but each character gets their own piece throughout this. And Azula's first one for me is the very first scene where she appears with the boat that's on the route to the island. Azula does not care that they are leaving the capital and leaving politics and leaving the whole usual shtick that she'd usually be obsessed with. Certainly later on is obsessed with, and Zuko does. I like that. That's a little bit of a development showing that she, she's perfectly happy just chilling and taking a break from it all. She's got that aspect of her life that we haven't really seen much of. It's going back to the kind of the development of her as a sister figure throughout the rest of this book, as we mentioned in a few earlier episodes. She's more than what we've seen her in, her in a position in her role in previous books.
I wasn't sure how I felt about it. I thought it was interesting. I hadn't really come to a decision on how I felt about how she was feeling. You know what I mean? Because to me, later on, we see that she obviously has issues with her father, right? That comes up. But I think it might be just that she's so used to the way he is, and Zuko isn't, and also she doesn't have like a walking reminder of some injustice on her face.
Yes, that helps as well.
So he's, from his perspective, he's spent like the last few years traveling. Like, he don't want to go to the beach. He wants to be back at home. He wants to be in his father's good graces, where he thinks he does. So I can understand that there. She almost is in that. I don't know what you would term it, but it's like, because she's also abused, but in a different way.
She's disconnecting from a space she's comfortable with, and because she's comfortable with it, it's easier. That get into that mindset. Whereas with Zuko, like you said, he only just came back and really hasn't really been as immersed in that world as she has, so it's harder for him to step away.
Yeah, it's not so much apathy or the monotony of it for her. It's just the fact that she's just, she is more comfortable in that space.
She's taking it. Yeah. She's just taking it.
It's just I'm used to it, and it's not that big a deal. That kind of thing. She's always been the one more in control of herself than Zuko, at least at this stage. It's nice to get that instant flash in the very first part of the episode.
Now, are they suggesting that these people need chaperones? Like, why are Lo and Lee involved? I've never quite understood why they are even there. Like, I mean, unless they were just happened to be chilling at the beach anyway, because I guess this is like where they live, or at least a house they have.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong.
You have two of the strongest firebenders alive, and two, a master assassin, and really,
it's less about them being at risk and more about them being teenagers, alone in a house by themselves, especially with two of them in a relationship.
But I'm pretty sure that's the implication. World by themselves,
Yeah, but like, Zuko wasn't there originally. It was 3 girls before. Remember, this is the first time it's been.
So
Zuko.
He would mess that up, or
no? Because he's in a relationship with May. I think this is the implication. But that teenagers will be teenagers kind of thing. But yeah, you're right. In terms of like,
I think the last thing Ozai cares about is that.
I don't. But May's parents might, and also it's a show, so they have to think about that kind of thing. But yeah, that has to be it, because it's certainly not the fact that
would be such stunning hypocrisy. Like, we have to control our daughter's sex life, but she can learn master assassin tools, or like tools of the trade. Like,
exactly. But
yes.
No other place that think that.
Absolutely ridiculous. Ridiculous, but in that way that I can almost believe, because as humans, like, we have done many stupid things.
Everyone has a different parenting style.
Yes, and we learn about theirs. Actually, she gives voice to that for the first real time.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing. You already touched on this, but I like that a lot of these characters are doing not necessarily, I don't mean to say evil things, but they're doing reprehensible things or bad things or unsavory things throughout the whole episode in one way or another. Even Ty Lee, in the way that she uses boys, but kind of almost unknowingly, like there's an innocence about Ty Lee, but she very much is like spoiled or catered to, like the one guy where she wants him to stay in the shade, or to stay in his shade, right, from his shadow or whatever, right? That's absurd. But she's just used to that sort of treatment. But they're all doing, like, May is kind of like really difficult to be around. And Zuko, it all gets caught out. Everybody's bad behavior gets caught out in this episode.
And not just the bad behavior we see within the episode, but the underlying roots of why that kind of thing happens. It's
about the baggage,
package,
but it's about their baggage, but they're also displaying the negative qualities. You know what I mean? I mean, she is really like not helping the bad time here at all. And when he calls that out, he's also got like anger issues, and so she's right to call him out on possessive weird quality. You know what I mean? Just
one of
things
those
that
situations where like everybody actually does have a legitimate point in their criticisms of the people around them.
Even
Azula.
Azula.
Yeah,
even
without
Azula.
feeling forced, you know?
And especially funny in this context as well, is Azula's the one doing until the end, obviously, the least wrong. You know, she's actually the person who's being the least negative out of the four.
She's the most socially awkward.
I guess
I mean, she's just.
But
you know what I mean?
Even before like the public scene with other people, though, just the interactions between the four, like she's laughing at people and just kind of sitting in the background and observing, but she's not actively being the problem, which is nice to see considering what this could have been. If you sat down in the writer's book room and thought, okay, how do we play with drama in this group, and how do we develop them? You could easily have had Azula be the wrench in the works that she does become later on and has been throughout. But instead, she's kind of just taking that side spectator role until we get into the awkwardness of her interacting with the public. And, you know, there's everybody gets their own little piece of treatment. Everyone gets their development. Everyone gets their new bit of information kind of thrown down on them. Especially as we were by the capstone at the end. It's just it works so well throughout the entire episode, scene by scene, to enrich that final beach episode, you know, scene. You know, the episode's so well known for. Which
all this craziness is going on, we cut back to Team Avatar, just kind of, you know.
Oh yeah, we haven't.
They're in this episode, by the way, but they don't really do much. Not much. Well, again, until the end.
Okay,
but again, it's just kind of. Sorry.
This is the one thing that annoys me about this episode is that it's Toph pointing out that Aang's tattoos are exposed. She can't see. She's never seen a tattoo in her life. She wouldn't care because she's kind of reckless in that way. Sokka can see. Sokka's got a mind for strategy. Sokka's aware. Make that a Sokka line, and then this is a perfect episode. It's always it annoys me
it's never really necessarily that, you know, she's aware of tattoos, she knows the thing, but you're right, she wouldn't be the one to even care, let alone bring this one up. You know, it's just not in the nature to be a warrior in that way. You know, it's not like it breaks anything. It's just it is like that would have been a more appropriate Sokka line. Having said that, though, there is only a limited amount of lines that you can cut off due to.
And nature, he's even like floating in water. You know what I mean? So it's like she definitely can't see him. You know what I mean? So she has no idea what he's doing. So anyway, but yeah, on that point, that the episode or the story with them with the episode is just Combustion Man or Sparky Boom Man, whatever you want to call him. He's there. And
he finds them, they fight, they get away, and that's pretty much the gist of it.
And it has to be said that once again, Aang is letting himself down and just being carefree and careless. You know, he absolutely gets them caught by being reckless that way. Not only does he go, oh, let's go down this tunnel for the hell of it because why not? I'm safe. I'm the Avatar, and just zooms down. But also then he just openly displays airbending to leap back up to the top. Like, come on, Aang.
Yeah. You would expect him at least at this point in the series to be a bit more. You know, this
cautious. Is like a week after the awakening where he's had this big, like, you know, it is a flaw, but it's realistic and it's Aang, so, you know, who cares? It's just, it's something worthy of note, I think. But I also enjoyed the excitement of the watch guards who are like, oh, this nothing ever happens. It's, oh, we get to send in a black level rating ribbon. How amazing is that? And then immediately.
But then, you know, of course, it never gets there because Sparky Boom Man or whatever. But a stunning animation. And the great action. I really like even though it's really more of a chase than it is a fight, but it's very, very good and it's truncated. And
it sells the moment we actually confront them as well. You know, even before the later fight, it shows that this guy is more of a force of nature. They have to survive rather than engage. You know, even though the line delivery, if we can't win, we have to run it. I'll distract him. It also gives a bit of a foreshadowing. Visually anyway to the end fight in the finale as well, because a lot of what Aang's doing against Sparky Boom Man is
the location the location is very similar, but and it does show how Aang's progresses in Earthbend. We already knew that, but he's really fully integrated it into what he's doing a lot better at this point, or a lot more spectacularly rather, because of the opportunity they have to show that. But the moment where he actually confronts them, that way we don't have to jump back and forth between the two plot lines. We can just smooth that out. That is like brilliantly done with the sound on that, because like the music cuts out and it's just like the sounds of like the bending, you know, and then the sound of his, you know, like the sort of contained explosion, and
it's a thunderclap with every shot. It's really you know, and it gives that oomph on the delivery because it is a new ability. It's not just a case of, oh, look, a new power for the sake of it. It really does focus on the drama of it and the threat it represents to the team, because everything they're throwing at it, things that would usually just insta win them the fight, he's just detonating it and just casting it aside.
It's a good way to show like how like, you know, even if you're on par skill wise with your opponent, if they pull out something that you literally have never encountered before and have no way to deal with, well, that's going to be a major issue.
Yeah. I just love how reactionary like everything that they're doing is. It's like they're throwing like their two big guns at him immediately, like between Qatar and Toph. And it's not going anywhere. It's great. And he's one of those characters I would like to sit him down and go, why are you doing this? Like, what did Zuko offer you? Like what did Zuko offer you? Because clearly this man does not need money, because he can just get whatever he wants if he's able to stroll through life doing that. Like, it must be like some kind of, I just want to do this, or I just enjoy this, this kind of thing.
The Boba Fett complex.
Yeah. But anyway, I don't have too much to say about that other than that I love everything about that, from the audio to the visual side. I mean, the lighting, the fact that it's taking place at night, and so when his flames will like illuminate things, and they play with the
lighting as well. Yeah, like that works really well visually as well. In terms of his character design, I like the kind of taloned gauntlet that he has. Very tied well with his bird of prey. They put some effort into how this guy was going to work, which it didn't really need to. He doesn't say anything. He's not an important part of the show by and large, but they want to make sure they're putting the quality into every aspect of it, and it really helps sell the drama and the threat and impact of him for the audience, because he's not someone you forget. He's pretty much insignificant in the grand scheme of the overall show, but he sticks in the mind, and it's not just because of his boom power. He does have the presence to go with it.
His energy is very memorable, because it's just such a breakaway from what we've seen previously.
He said he sticks in the mind, and not just because of his boom power, which would have been brilliant if you've meant to say it, but I don't think so.
just because he's called Sparky Boom Man. So what do you got?
No, but I mean, because he blows stuff up with his mind.
Well,
right?
that as well. Yeah.
But and I love that this is what he's doing, because I mean, he could have succeeded. I mean, there's a chance that he could have won here, and the whole episode on the other side is
as well. They're all camping. Toph's not there. Looks down. Boom.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, if Toph had not been there, or a little less aware, they're done. But in the whole episode, though, on the other side is about Zuko being conflicted about like his actions, and he very nearly could have got them all killed like that.
Exactly. Even just the thematic level of them being running parallel to that, because of decisions he's made, because of all the struggle that he's going through. This is the the very real world consequence. So yeah, it kind of helps sell that a bit. Hammered in even later on when it comes up with the when he returns. It's brilliant. But yeah. But
anyway,
returning back to the small
them.
elite team, they are, they're at the beach. They're showing off the various different traits, both in terms of the relationships and the balance of the dynamics between them, etc. The different traits we talked about, the negative traits.
You learned that you should never play Azula in volleyball
or anything. Like the insane competitiveness that we already knew existed in her is very much reinforced in this volleyball match. Again, another anime classic for beach episodes. And yeah, they get invited to the party, which they end up going to.
We see Azula's social skills when it comes to interacting with people her age on full display.
When it's not.
Well, I like that they weren't invited. Really, it was the other two were invited, and she just kind of like she didn't pull the royal card, but it was because of the interest of the fact that they didn't know who they were, and she wanted to see that.
That's another detail that didn't need to happen. They didn't need to put that into the writing room. That could have been just, they all get invited to the party and they go and drama ensues. But that's that little extra touch that Azula gets with the follow-up scene when they're talking about why they accepted going. She's like, I love being worshipped. She's not discarding that, but it's interesting. I'm intrigued to see how it goes when they don't know we're royalty.
Which I mean, when you really think about it, doesn't make a ton of sense, but it is what it is.
Well,
the fact that they don't get recognized at all. I mean,
I can buy it.
Yeah, I can buy it. Zuko less so, but even then, I suppose there are wounds like that around.
I know, but she's literally the princess of the entire nation, and it's been established in the past that pretty much every house has a picture of the Fire Nation family in it. So it's like, really, I don't know.
Fire Nation and family? I didn't really notice that.
That's a royalty thing in general, but yeah, it's the time before.
Well, I mean, Ozai. I mean, I imagine Azula too. But,
see, the thing is, though,
Azula's a pretty well-known public figure.
Interconnectivity being what it was back then, though, in this era and what we've seen from it, they're not exactly all getting posted through the door about it.
True.
As a real-world discussion, fame, as we understand it, is entirely an invention of the 20th century because of things like the camera. printing magazines, newspapers, and eventually radio and television. I mean, even if you were like Pope, like before, you know, like in the 1800s or before, there might be 1,000 people who know your face, and they all live in Rome. You know what I mean? It's like everybody, they'll know your name, but they're not going to know your face.
Yeah, she's Princess Azula, Queen of the Fire Nation to them. She's a name and a presence and a power figure that's way up the chain in a kind of
and she's also she's not even
physically someone
she's not even the crowned, you know, like heir. You know what I mean? Like Zuko is. So it's like they I can easily see these two are obviously pretty stupid. These two guys, you know. So it's like I could see them not even knowing. Like, yeah, you know, there's a royal family, but you know what I mean. And one, you might even know that one of them was banished for like the last 3 years, but. That's
I mean, putting into perspective, I don't know what most of the royal family in my own nation looks like, with the obvious exception of
why would you?
Big guns in it. So you know, and that's with all of the interconnectivity and immediacy and photos and videos and social media and all that stuff for my end. So it's you know, it's true to life, I think. And I like the fact that she's interested in it, not so much because I've got a great yearning to be normal, because that's certainly not Azula, but just that kind of this will be new. You know, this intrigue and curiosity. Almost cat-like, but they go to the party, which Lo and Lee are way too excited about. And,
I love that line. They're like, to the party. I was like, what do they care?
And they're not even going as well, so it's such a weird. But whatever.
Although I was very triggered by all the ageist jokes about their physique. That was not right. That was. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I wouldn't get away with that in modern day, that's for sure.
No, yeah.
But yeah,
which you know, this is not an old show at all, which is like so weird to think about.
But
the fact,
last
like
10
the
years,
change in sensibilities.
Yeah, change in sensibilities in the last decade is monumental. A lot of it for the good, better, not all of it. But yeah, so they arrive at the party exactly on time. Unfashionably punctual.
That is the best.
No one's here yet. You said dusk. It's dusk now.
But to me, that of the awkward bits, like that's the best one, because all the other ones are so over the top, like humorous. Like they're funny, they all work, but that one you can almost see it. You know what I mean?
There are people out there that have done that. You're not quite the Dust to Dawn level of expression, but just the arriving when the party starts, not realizing it gets into full flow like an hour into it. That's something that many people have done. That is
what I love about it is that May must know better than this, because her parents are socialites, right? But she just doesn't care to tell Azula, so it doesn't care about anything enough to point anything out, you know. But she knows that this is stupid, you know.
Yeah, like
Zuko wouldn't care; he wouldn't know any better either. Entirely, she grew up in a circus, or anything goes, right? We just go with the flow. But Azula. She definitely should have asked May, like, what's the etiquette here? But then she wouldn't be Azula, though, would she?
Exactly, that would be expressing a small piece of vulnerability and weakness, which does come later.
She does.
For the moment, it has to be it has to be cracked open. You know, the moment has to hit. And we see a bit of that throughout this. Obviously, we've got the Empire-style battlefield because it's so sharp line, which is hilariously perfect for exclusively Azula. That line would not have worked with anyone else's voice in anyone else's character for me. But because it's
is that the stupidest thing she says? I think it might be
one of, if not the most.
Like in the whole series, I mean, that might be the dumbest thing she ever says.
Yeah, the dumbest single line, I think. Yeah. That has to take the prize.
So that's another parallel between her and Katara, is that they are not funny. At least not when they're trying to be.
Yes, absolutely. And obviously she gets the aspect of jealousy of Ty Lee, because Ty Lee is just casually liked by everyone, and Azula, at least a small part of her, wants.
Well, this is the brilliance
of that, if not the actual normalcy of
the brilliance of this interaction is what she says what she says to achieve the effect of taking Ty Lee down a peg. But it's also 100% true, and it's absolutely true. That's the only reason is those are obviously very shallow guys who are into her for the most superficial reasons, and Ty Lee you can buy as being innocent and kind of head in the clouds enough not to be considering that. And so when it is pointed out, it's the way Azula does it. It's in the delivery of it that she causes harm, but but the message is true, and a normal person would, because we all have friends who are going through something that you know that you could help them or guide them or give them some kind of information, but if you package it the wrong way, it'll come off as a slap in the face, like this does, right? And the uncharacteristic thing, or at least atypical for Azula, is that she feels some remorse over this.
Yeah, instantaneous remorse as well. You know, it's like, I didn't mean this entire reaction. You know, and also it's a bit. in the delivery and the fact that we know these characters are who they are, I'm not entirely sure that the jealousy aspect had fully realized in her mind. When she gives the line saying, maybe it's just because I'm a bit jealous, that almost sounds like it's itself a line manipulation to make her feel better. Because when she's saying it, and immediately before, we don't seem to see much of Azula's kind of personal reaction of the jealousy until she mentions it. It fits the context and makes sense as an excuse, but there is enough in it for me where I'm questioning whether or not that's actually the spark. It's just kind of her honesty, borderline cruelty in the moment that she then justifies afterwards.
I could be wrong, but they do show. I think they show her reacting to Tylee's attention before this.
Yeah, like, I think it's a single expression. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think it's genuine. I just don't know how genuine it is. To me, it more just stands out the fact that she commented on it at all, like to
openly admit it. Yeah, even if it's just
she doesn't. I don't believe she actually apologizes, but she does offer an explanation, and she does try to get Tylee to calm down. Which again, it's not a true apology. It's not a full apology, rather. But I mean, it's Azula, so like exactly. I mean,
and the fact that she even cares to try is revealing at this stage.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big, huge step.
It's a massive piece of development because until this point we've never seen anything like that at all. This is the first episode. I mean, again, going back to when you first watched the show, this is the first time you ever see vulnerability, genuine kindness, openness, all that stuff with well, I guess that's vulnerability with Azula, and it tracks throughout the episode. It's not just this one little moment.
See, the thing is like what Tylee does is like this sort of, they play it up for laughs when really in real life it wouldn't be funny, with like a bunch of guys like have her in a corner because it's a show for kids, right? You know what I mean? And she kind of like punches him or whatever and gets herself away from it. And in real life, or if rather, I'm not saying in real life, but if you wanted to achieve the right effect in real life, the way that you would go about it is you would explain what was wrong with those guys. But what Azula does is she says, "You're a tease. You're easy." You know what I mean? Like she puts the onus on her, which it's true that that's the effect, but that's not how you help the person. That's not how you know what I mean? And like that's what causes the feelings in Tylee, that Azula didn't necessarily mean to achieve. And I think it's also because obviously, she's her father's daughter. So whatever imperfections that there ever were in her have been pointed out, like whenever they reared their head, like forever. So that's how she knows to deal with other people. And then it causes pain, So it's very
pain that she herself, she herself knows and has felt
that she's not dealing with, or refuses to deal with, that doesn't even know she has to deal with, and doesn't then expect in other people, because she didn't really mean to hurt Tylee, but that's what happens.
Yeah. I like that. I like the fact that could have been again an instance where she was deliberately being cruel, or at least even if she was being honest, she was trying to be caught on top of the honesty, but it wasn't. This was clearly like, this is just this, and she's like, oh crap, all right, I'll immediately try and fix it again. And also I like that Tylee is, even though it's a bit of a dramatically fast, okay, it's all fine now again, but it's Tylee. But she immediately then moves into helping mode for Azula, because she is a kind person, she does care about her friend. She will then immediately kind of go into it and say, hey, this is how we help you out and get you through this problem, which is a nice response considering this is probably the first time she's ever had any vulnerability from Azula herself as well.
Yes. Yeah, she tries to help her with her schmoozing skills, and which,
if it was anyone else, would have worked. It was a terrible idea, obviously, but but for the age group, and her own experience, it's valid. And Azula just does not take that well.
There really is no scenario in this sort of situation with these people where this could end good.
Yeah,
Azula tries to she tries to form a power couple with what was his name, Chan or whatever his name is, and it's a classic.
She got her first kiss.
You could
if that was her first kiss, so she got a little bit of progress for herself.
That's what I was about to say.
For my money, that was 100% her first kiss.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So she got that experience for herself. Sorry, Evan, what were you saying?
No, I was going to say the exact same thing that Matt just said. Like, we don't even know if she ever even was in a relationship ever before this, or anything close to it.
I think it plays best, obviously, that this was.
And it's kind of implied that is the case anyway.
Yeah.
Well, so it's like her whole world is like warfare and domination, right? Like when we did the beach ball game, or the volleyball game rather. She's all, "We've defeated you for all time." It's like, hello, it's just a game. You know what I mean? This is like, we will be the most powerful couple. I have to go.
Yeah, On the note of him as well, obviously these guys are arsehole jock characters. They're clearly just young
Typical,
immature teenage boys, of this type, of this archetype. But having said that, especially considering what we know comes at the end of the episode, these guys have not really done anything that wrong. They've been immature, arsehole-ish guys.
When we got to that scene, I was going to say there's nothing too much to warrant this. Like,
exactly.
This is a bit. But yeah.
The reaction.
But they do suck. They clearly do suck.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you don't really feel too bad.
Absolutely. They're not
but it's not
great guys. But
it's like, not justice.
Exactly.
I think it was kind of one of those cases where the writers were like, I think they had to remind the audience that no, like these aren't good people at the very end. They spent so much time building up like their character at this point, and I think they just kind of forgot, like, oh wait, these are villains. We have to,
But also, I can see young people doing that though. It's like you have your moment where you realize that you're all like damaged people. Hey, this is too much airing out of feelings. Let's go like coordinate our efforts on something, and it's almost always something stupid and destructive in some way. Maybe not to that extreme.
We should be grateful they didn't burn the place down. They had that potential, so at least they kind of restrained themselves.
We should also be grateful that teenagers in the real world don't have fire powers either.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
but ultimately they could have been worse, and they weren't.
Although
it was interesting how they didn't do anything particularly wrong. Just they
did call Zuko loser boy, and that is just
that's true.
That's so offensive. That cannot be.
I mean, Zuko needs to get his honor back after that.
Yes. But anyway. And they were stupid enough to be all proud of that. He's like, nice, when he's like loser boy. I was like, really? Like,
it's like the most PG thing ever.
These guys are like 16 odd, right? Around that age. It's just, oh god. But the other thing we didn't note so much as well is the you mentioned it before, but didn't touch on it in the actual party scene. Zuko's possessiveness, because he is obviously he's angry, he's insecure, he's not comfortable with the environment. He's obviously he's reacting negatively.
Called out.
And that's the thing. It's called out and appropriately as well. It's not like we're breaking up and that's the end forever. It's like, no, you're human. You're going through something, and you express this, and we talk, and we all of that stuff. We get that packaged up at the end, but it works even on this level because he's reacting as he would in the situation in his current
like actual human beings.
Yeah.
I mean,
real people. It's real.
Like real people, right? So that's the thing, is that people are people often fail, or rather, and when I say people, I mean viewers or readers or whatever, consumers of media. They often fail to make the delineation between what they like about a character and what a real person would do in that character's shoes. It's not at all. It's out of character for Zuko to behave that way, but that's because he's out of sorts. Like if I met you in real life and you were doing something like really just strange and odd, it would be that was out of character for Callan. Yet he's doing it. There must be something up. You know what I mean? Like people don't make that delineation a lot. And he's again, they're all doing things wrong. Ironically, least of all with the Zula for once. But but it all gets dealt with in this scene. So let's move into that, because we have this scene where he goes up to the old beach house and has like his moment.
Has some flashbacks. And his old family home. I love the pottery hand thing, by the way.
Everybody's got one of those, don't they? Everybody's mother has one of those.
Exactly. Yeah. I know we have exactly two of those each. But my sister and I, and it's that instantly relatable thing, and just it works well. I mean, it's been done to death. This kind of thing has been used in every medium ever, but just that it still maintains its power because it's kind of that connecting him to his youth and the times that were, as he said at the very start of the episode, a very long time ago. It's a very real separation between the innocence of his youth and the state of himself, not only in the modern day in general, but particularly now where he's in such like discord and such emotional distress that he can't, put things together in his head properly. He's on a horrific journey. And this is like that little bit of touch of innocence of that memory of the quiet, homely place. And what I like in particular is he doesn't just remember his mum, which we get quite a lot. Yeah, he remembers his father. Like he remembers the hand on the shoulder. I was going to say,
the first episode of the season, I mentioned that throughout the whole show, I don't think that they have any physical contact, but that is the one exception, is those photos or not photos, paintings, whatever they are. Sorry, I got a little notification. I just had to dismiss it.
Just the memory of it. He's looking back on that time and thinking, oh, it wasn't always like this. It's adding fuel to that fire.
I believe we saw some of those shots before, and it was implied that they might have been Iroh. You know what I mean? And certainly some of them were. It was in a different episode from like book one, back when Zuko had his old hair.
Yeah, we've seen this back shot of them before, I think, and not this exact angle, but yeah, we have done that. I can't remember which episode that is though. We'll have to look back on that sometime.
It could be the storm, something where he was soul searching or looking at. Yeah,
one of the Zuko soul searching episodes.
but yeah, I mean, the fact that this also is they kind of, I really wish if we could go off a little bit of a tangent, I really wish they had made this a thing in the show where they dealt with Ozai's humanity or wherever it went away, because it's brought up again, like when Katara finds the baby photo of him and she's like, but he's so cute and innocent or whatever, and he's like, oh well, now he's the Fire Lord. And it's a great little moment. I wish more had been made of in the show of that, and
more time should have been spent on that. It would have added so much more to the impact of him as a villain if we knew.
We've said this before. The way to do it, and the one thing, there are two things actually that I'll always be annoyed that we didn't get about this show. One is a more satisfactory end to the Zuko's mother thing, like that to me kind of gets. Yeah, I'm not even complaining really about what happened in the comic, just the way it was dealt with in the show. If you think about it, like as a fullness of things coming as a culmination, that does feel like a loose end. And then the other thing is a conversation between Iroh and Ozai. I would have killed for that, just of some sort, even if it was in flashback. I don't care. Like it could be modern times. It could be Ozai talking to him in prison. It could be a flashback. I don't care. Some kind of interaction between the two of them would have really elevated the show. Absolutely. It was already an amazing show. But anyway, back to modern times.
Azula finds Zuko, which is another bit.
I love that.
She knows where to go, and she finds him, and she's clearly doing it for good intentions. Even if it's just a casual, "Where's my brother?" That is, as we mentioned,
condescending.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not like, "Oh, I've manipulated Zuko. I understand him." It's
clearly
why,
just we've had those moments already.
Exactly, and like we said earlier,
we get them again in this episode.
We've had the breadcrumbs leading up to this point, and we've mentioned in the previous episodes of her trying to be a sister for no other reason than seemingly wanting to, even with the sinister edge that sometimes comes along with that. There are moments where she's just doing it for doing its sake. And this is the first time we get it again in this episode, or reinforced properly again. And it's immediately followed up with this entire scene of the beach. She's not perfect, and it's not always pure just interest of being a sister. But that is there. That is a part of who she is. She does care about her brother, and she does want this normalcy. It's just she's not good at it. She's not good at being good.
She's psychologically very, very damaged, right? I mean, it's like there's a care. I don't know if it's love. I don't know. I'm not sold about whether she has that capacity entirely, but there's like bringing it back to the Ty Lee thing. She doesn't really want what Ty Lee's got, but she thinks for a moment she does. You know what I mean? It's like I think that feelings are so distant from her and things that she's just not accustomed to having dealt with that she doesn't know. They're almost abstractions. So yeah, I approve of your use of the term she cares about is her brother, but in what way and for what reasons and how far, those things I don't think she could tell you. You know what I mean?
It's something that I think, again, we'll go into this more later on the book, because the finale in particular really comes to a fore, but I think it's she has the capacity, but it's one of the things that's been warped most by her trauma and her suffering as a child. She is naturally, I think, someone who is manipulative, sociopathic in tendencies, warped, and all that stuff. But she's also the sibling and the friend alongside that. It's just that has been heavily stamped down, and needs.
She's like a friend in this episode only. I can't think of anything else she ever does.
But she also doesn't particularly get the time for it in other episodes. There aren't any other episodes where she's spent entirely in leisure time. There's always.
This is where you're a lot more generous about it than I am, because like I'm much more pessimistic on it. Like I'm not sold, because you are saying that she has the capacity, and I think that's down to like a belief kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like you're willing to take that on faith, and I'm not. You know what I mean?
For certain characters, I think there's enough with Azula to warrant the potential for redemption.
I'm saying you have the context for it. I'm not saying you just do it willy nilly, but you're going that route with her, whereas I don't think I can. But that's the difference between our views of her. Really,
we'll get more into that when it comes up in the finale. But yeah, divergent paths. I think there's just the potential of it, and I like the fact that they've at least, even if you don't agree that's where she's going or could go, they're laying the groundwork for the momentum that could be there. And they're paying the time and the lip service to it in this episode, where they really have kind of introduced the whole aspect of her being a human. Not caring, but potentially wanting to care person.
What? if they were gonna sell me, I'll just stick a pin in this for later. But I will say, if they were really gonna sell me on it, they would have had to have brought her back for Korra, and in the spots where it would have made sense to do it.
Anyway.
Yeah,
it was stupid. They didn't.
I mean, it would have been fan service to the max, so I can understand the temptation to not want to do that. But if you wanted to sell me on some kind of redemptive streak, it would have needed the time that you could only get from something like that. But anyway,
Avatar really could have done with another season. Like, they could have easily done another season. It would have had to be handled well, but they had enough material to make it work for me. And they've kind of done that with the comics, even if most of that has been terrible. But yeah, regardless, we're belaving the point. We move on to the beach scene of the beach episode, where, I mean, everyone knows it. This is the episode. This is the scene that everyone just
rants and just gets it all off their chest.
Yeah, and it's everybody. Everyone has. Every single line of this scene is someone making a point or reacting to a point or reiterating.
I wanted to
shaping
talk about
the conversation
that
as a whole. It's so this is one of the best conversations of the entire show for me.
Yeah, it really is. It's like it's not like everything that they say has to be worded in just the way they did it, but all the choices were right, if you know what I mean. Like, for example, one of the things that stood out to me is, so after we get through like sort of the May and Ty Lee bits of it, it's Ty Lee's first, right? And then we kind of get into what's wrong with May. And then that leads to May and Zuko arguing at each other, which is very a natural progression there. But then Ty Lee comes in with what is honestly intended as a bit of just well-intentioned help, where she's like, this much bad aura is bad for your skin, right? And he's like, bad skin, like look at my face, right? You know what I mean? But what she's saying, and she apologizes, or is about to before he interrupts her. But that is very like that was perfect, because whoever came up with that line is like, it's a natural progression for him to go off on this whole other tangent that has nothing to do with any of them. You know what I mean? Like, it's that is not any of their, not even Azula's fault. You know what I mean? The fact that his dad is the way he is. It was just her poor choice of words, but very believably so, because that's the kind of thing Ty Lee cares about, is like primping and looking good, and also auras, energy and auras and hippy dippy shit, So it all worked perfectly. Like, whereas like, how do I get Zuko to go off on this other wild tangent about what's really going on with him? I just have somebody say the wrong thing, and that happens. That's real life, so that is where the dialogue was like perfect. Whoever did that.
No, the realism was really on point, and the fact that, like you're saying, the flow of the conversation too is something I think that's really worth pointing out, because it's not like somebody will say something and then it immediately, like, someone talks over them and yada yada. Like you said, like, one person says something and that gives this person motivation to say this, and so on and so forth. So again, it feels very realistic in that way.
Exactly. It kept all of the drama it was trying to capture and then reinforce, and managed to make it work as though it was just a casual conversation between friends. It wasn't like, heavy-handed with the writing. We must get this point out. It flowed perfectly. And even the small bits that didn't really have anything to do with the large conversation, the little subtle thing, like, for example, with Ty Lee in particular, she mumbles, I do know you. That kind of little bit that she says. It's a line that she doesn't have much as a character, and she's not really a significant enough character to even warrant that kind of little add-on. And they still sprinkle it in for the sake of making her a more fulfilled character, because this is where they have the time to do that for the small elite team. Every other episode, they're either they're bogged down by the fact they've got to race forward with the pacing of the plot, or they're not center characters, they're background dressing for the main characters. So it's nice they're doing this when they do have the time to do it.
Yeah, I'm sorry to derail the very like thoughtful and more heartfelt side of this, but it did make me laugh at one point when on the Ty Lee point, where before all this, like when he's all he asked May if she's cold, right? And he's like, and he goes, I'll build a fire. Or May is like, whatever, and Ty Lee is like, I'm freezing, and he goes, I'll build a fire. And then he's like, there's plenty of stuff to burn in there, and she's like the look on her face is disappointed. He's like, that's not what I meant. I want you to put your arms around me, Zuko. What are you talking about? Like, build your fire.
Much different situation in her head.
Yeah, I mean, it's like neither one of them knows how to flirt or do anything. Like, I mean, neither Zuko or Azula knows anything about it. Although he tries. He tries all throughout this episode.
He's
not very good at it, but I mean, he tries. But,
she doesn't give him his due for that one. At least the effort going into it.
And I do like when because when we're airing it all out or whatever, and I like her line when she's like, I'm still mad at you, you know what I mean?
Yes,
because the way he was acting, I think it's my favorite. I know that she has her stand up to Azula moment in the Boiling Rock, but I mean, this is the first time she feels human in the whole show. Like I've never, she's not. We've said before that she might be like one of our bottom characters of the main cast. Not to say she's bad, but just in comparison to everybody else, she's not like a huge standout. Kind of by design. That's like who her character is. But part of me really wishes that they'd just spent more time on both Ty Lee and May throughout this final book to really make them, because they don't really play a strong role in the finale, and they definitely could have. They really could have.
They had enough material going on with it. Could have worked very well. And this is, like I said, the most human we ever see her. She's a character that's very stoic by design. So it's not that she's a non-character, but it's very easy to perceive her as that, given the limited amount of time she's had being not that, and the limited amount of time we've seen post-development as well. So we've got this episode, we get the reaction, kind of rebellion against Azula kind of situation, and then that's just it. Every other scene with her is just loyal supporting character, or I'm happy now because I'm a Zuko character at the end. It's there's no real time spent on her because there's not that much time to spend. So it's a shame we didn't get that, but ultimately it doesn't really cripple the show or anything. And it's nice that we get this scene here because this does actually cement them all as characters and with a group dynamic, which is important for the Boiling what's it called?
Boiling Rock.
Boiling Rock, thank you. Boiling Rock episode, where it does kind of come to a head. If we didn't have this, we just would not care at all about the two, Ty Lee and May, rebelling against her at that point. It would have been, that's dramatic, and that would have been it. It wouldn't have been any personal investment. So this is important for that reason alone. But moving away from Ty Lee and May, we have Zuko is the primary focus, obviously. His reaction here is legendary in the fandom. It's beautiful, it's poetic, it works. It's a culmination of 3 books almost at this point worth of development.
It's not even like my favorite Zuko scene, but it is.
But it's up there, and it's so vital to his overall growth. It's this release of tension and frustration and revelation for him as he comes to the conclusion. He finally either admits or becomes aware of the fact that he's angry with himself. While it's all amazing and perfect and glorious, there is one thing I find a bit odd about it: the egging on from the other characters. Either it's in the delivery or the focus of it with the visuals. It seems a little bit unnatural that they're all like. That's
cinema. That's. I would say that you're in his mind at that moment, where the way he's perceiving it.
Exactly.
Yeah. They're not actually. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not egging on in quite that way, but it's just that for me was the only part of the entire scene that didn't play perfectly naturally. And like you say, it's a stylistic choice. It's kind of in his head. He's kind of like, that kind of not PTSD, but that kind of like tunnel vision mentality.
In their world, they're also not listening to dramatic music swellings.
Yeah, exactly.
Talks, you know what I mean? It's like it's and in real life, if people were having an argument, they wouldn't be able to blow up the campfire with their emotional release. It's all just that's stylized. Yeah,
I love that the campfire by the way went down to embers after that. It's a small little touch, and it's by no means a massive issue. It is stylization, like you say, but it just, to me, it stood out more because of how flawlessly natural the rest of the conversation was, and how. Well, not rare in Avatar. This is certainly one of the peak moments. Like, even if you don't like the episode or the scene as much as other scenes in the show, in terms of pure, natural flowing, well executed dialogue, this is top tier. It doesn't get better than this in Avatar. It gets as good, but it doesn't get better. So that's that kind of why it stood out to me. And obviously that's the big moment for Zuko. But for me as well, for my money, small little bit we get with Azula, that was the gold here for me. Because it's well, I say it's not better than the Zuko execution, but it's the tidbit
kind of all known by.
Sorry, yeah, it's just the fact that we don't get it anywhere else. This is the only time that we see like the rubber stamp on the fact that she does actually feel and is vulnerable and does have this emotional reaction. She's not purely sociopathic, psychopathic, don't care about anything. She actually has a very deep-seated and she's self-aware of it. Rooted,
I just want a quick note that it's the question of definitions. That doesn't mean she's not sociopathic.
No, I know, but she's not purely that, is what I'm saying. She's not completely devoid of any of these feelings and thoughts. She has that potential for redemption, the potential for being something more, and the capacity for moving past this, etc. This scene shows that at least that is there. Whether or not you think she's likely to ever go down that route is a separate thing that comes later, but the planting the seed is here, and it's such a beautifully well delivered line as well. It's not like, I'm going to now spill my guts, because that's not Azula. It's very offhanded, just she was right, of course, but it still hurt. Just that right there, the fact that she was even willing to say that.
I mean, even if you don't interpret,
there's something about that line that to me does it doesn't quite it sort of is what restricts it from taking it to the next level that you're at with it, where I'm like, if she hadn't said that, I wouldn't ever argue with you. You know what I mean? But it's not just the fact she says it, it's also the way she says it. Unless that's just a front.
The thing is,
you know
I agree with you if it wasn't followed up with the clear pain and suffering she has from just the visions of her mother in the finale. Like, this is the springboard to those moments. And the fact that she cares and she's hurt and was like, my own mother kind of thing, it wouldn't bother her if it didn't bother her in this moment here. She's clearly just Azulaing it and sweeping under the carpet because she just, okay, that's vulnerability. That's enough vulnerability for me. Let's just kind of play it off as a thing. And that's also very true to life. I know that other people have done that as well.
But what it is with that scene, right? I'm not sure because surely, I guess you could. This is like a larger conversation where people could talk about whether Ursa did a good job as a mother for her. That's not really what I'm trying to speak to. But my point would be that she isn't what she is because of anything the mother does, right?
No, I agree with that.
You know what I mean? So to me, in that scene, I see as much. I see it less of a. I see less of it as focused on the relationship between mother and daughter and more because obviously Ursa's not there. It's not even like her spirit, right? It's a complete hallucination. It's Azula dealing with her own self-image, right? And so much of that is about her, the hyper-awareness of what she is, right? And being disgusted by it, even though it's the only thing she knows how to be, right? There's a lot more going on there than just, oh, my mom liked Zuko better than me. You know what I mean?
No, I don't mean to imply that. That's a small part of it, but it's small.
I know you're not saying that. I'm not throwing words in your mouth, please.
No.
I'm the only reason. The only thing I'm doing is explaining why, like all the things I'm thinking about, and why I don't give her the same levels of credit necessarily, because I don't see like a she's a very complex. It's interesting how complex this is, given that she isn't really around that often. You know what I mean? They're establishing all this over the course of only a few scenes, right? And she has like murderous intent in her. She has cruelty. She has all these horrible things that are not normal. Especially she is still a child. Easy though that is to forget. Also, these two characters of the whole cast, like these are not child actors, Azula and Zuko, right? Like they were both well into like their 30s or 40s when they voiced these characters. Had to probably be because of this being able to sell these characters in that way. You needed those more mature performances. Not that the others don't do a good job, they do. But these moments, like what we're talking about, we will never ever discuss Aang to this extent. You know what I mean? Because he's not that complex, right? Even though he's the titular character. But this is like, I find her. The more we talk about it, I kind of feel like uncharitable or sort of like hard nosed, like in my own approach to her. But at the same time, I really feel like I have good reason for it. It's like to hold her at arms. Like I don't. By the end of the show, I don't see somebody who's poised on a cusp for redemption. I just see somebody who's broken, and I'm sad for her.
I completely agree. I'm just saying the potential in the future is there. Like there is a seed that can take root from what we see here. Just the fact that she does express his vulnerability, it is attached to what she perceived of herself through her mother's eyes, which was accurate and she agreed with, but doesn't make it hurt any less. She's seeing and agreeing with the fact that my mum thinks I'm a monster, and yeah, I am, but it's painful. And if it was just a casual thing, it didn't really matter to her, we wouldn't have had the follow-up of her being traumatically, self-abusing herself, basically, just being aware and reacting to these visions.
Yeah, we're circling back to where we are. We were, yeah,
and she's being haunted by, basically. So the fact that she, and then that capped off with the fact that her actual thing, the consistency of being as powerful as she was and as undefeatable as she was, and being as ambitious and professional and the elite Azula that she is, that's the core piece of her identity. Having that taken away from her by being beaten so relatively easily by Katara, that's what completely shatters her sense of self-image and puts her
that's a different conversation, because I don't have the same take on that. I don't think this is the defeat.
We'll save that for when we actually get to
But anyway, so that's she gets broken off that point. I think
the only reason
area there is redemption.
The only reason why this conversation spiraled this way is because what you're speaking to, I'd hate for people to think that that's what I think. It's like I'm not saying that these things don't matter to her, but because you keep saying if it didn't matter to her, then she wouldn't have.
Sorry,
that's not my point.
Not yours. So I'm just saying why I think that. Yeah. But yeah, no,
Anyway.
but yeah, Azula's piece. she gets that. It's a huge part of her character, especially considering, like we said, she doesn't get much of that in the way of that style of development outside of this episode. So it's and it's big and springboard into the finale that we discussed there. But so lots happening. But Zuko is the main focus, and when he blasts the fire up and it goes down to embers, I loved the remains about the fact that it didn't just stay back to a normal fire. It kind of dims down. They get that quiet, proper, true dusk moment in the episode where they kind of feel all smoothed out. They come back to that bookend of the episode and they feel better and whole and more conducive. And I like that it plays that naturally because that is how it works. That's how properly conducted discussion and what's the word I'm looking for?
Catharsis.
Yeah, catharsis.
Expression.
Just the completion of that kind of conflict to a satisfactory end, resolution as well.
It's like when you have a really good therapy session and when you walk out of it, you're like, you feel like you got so much off your chest and you have like a new
or even just like when you had what they call a good cry.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
it's true therapy.
Because your life is not better and your situation has not changed at all, and you guys haven't really dealt with anything, but you now have like it's like a little bit of a reset button where you can face tomorrow now.
Yeah, it's a perspective.
You said your piece, yeah,
and continue to do the real work, that'll carry you to like a better place,
And so what do they do immediately after that? They go and crash it.
Yeah, they go trash the house. Because
quite literally.
Right, yeah. But those guys had it coming because they called Zuko loser boy.
That's
true, you can't tolerate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't go back from that. Yeah, that house deserved to be burned down.
He had to redeem his honor. But yeah, that's The Beach. Fantastic episode. Lots of good discussion to be had about it. Definitely one of my top favorites in the show, if for no other reason that end cap scene that we just discussed there. But again, similar to the previous one, relatively simple in execution. It had a role to play, had a job to do, and it did it.
Of the whole series, this is
making it fantastic.
Yeah. Of the whole series, I would say that this is in like my top 10 episodes of the show somewhere. I don't know exactly where, but very good.
We'll have to do that. Yeah, we'll have to do a top 10 once we've got the entire series done.
Yeah, because and also I think that we'll do just a top 5 for book 3, guys, because it's so much easier to get into the top 10.
We spoke
you know what I mean? Because there's so many multi-part episodes.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
That and the fact that there's so many are so like the differential between the good and the bad in this book is so much more substantial than the previous ones. So it's very easy just to kind of reel it out. We'll all have the same options if we don't do a top 5 instead. But we'll do a top 5
of
for
book
this,
3, and then
book.
top 10 of series as a whole.
Exactly. Yeah, that's gonna be an interesting one, I think, because that's a lot. That's some hot competition for those. But yeah, that this has been The Beach. That's our discussion wrapped up. I'm Callan. I still don't have an outro.
Matt, thanks for watching. Have a nice day.
Evan Nova 95. We hope you guys enjoyed. We'll see you guys later.
Goodbye.
To the party!